One debate down, one to go. The leaders prepare for their biggest night yet. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Consider it halftime. All told, 4 party leaders will debate in both official languages for a total of 4 hours. And we're halfway there. Mark Carney, Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, and Yves-François Blanchet faced one another in a 2-hour French language debate last night. The English language debate is tonight. And Donald Trump was a constant theme. The trade war was the first debate topic chosen by the Debates Commission. All the leaders were asked why they thought they were the best person to deal with Donald Trump. Liberal leader Mark Carney said Canada needs to have a plan.
Well, first of all, in a crisis, you have to plan for the worst possible situation, and you have to have a plan to build a strong economy here in Canada. And we need to react with strength, and those are the elements that will allow us to succeed with Mr. Trump. He respects strength. He respects people who understand how the world works.
Throughout the debate, Mr. Carney called Donald Trump the greatest crisis of our lives. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre stressed the need for a new trade deal with the Americans and said Canada needs to move on from failed liberal policies.
We will never be an American state. We will remain sovereign. On my first day as Prime Minister, I will restart negotiations to accelerate a deal that will put an end to the tariffs and protect our sovereignty. We can't control Trump, but at the same time, we have to control what we can control. We need to reverse liberal economic policies that have weakened our country.
Jagmeet Singh, the NDP leader, who was fighting on 2 fronts most of the night, attacking both Carney and Poilievre, said more needs to be done to protect Canadian workers.
Mr. Carney, unfortunately, your priority is, well, you had time to meet with the king, but you did not increase the amount of money people receive when they lose their jobs due to the trade war. These days, people receiving EI get maybe half of their salary. For people who have already lost their jobs, that is not enough. It won't cover the bills. It won't cover their rent costs. That shows your priorities.
From Trump, the debate moved on to another big issue in this election campaign, the cost of living. Pierre Poilievre tried to link Mark Carney to Justin Trudeau.
But Mr. Carney, you're repeating exactly the same promises that Justin Trudeau has been making for 10 years. During the Liberal decade, when you were the economic advisor, the cost of housing has gone up.
Of England,
and you inflated the cost of housing then, too. You have a terrible record in England.
Jagmeet Singh also went after the Liberal leader over soaring rents.
Mr. Carney benefited from the housing crisis when he was the board chair at Brookfield Investments. His company benefited from the housing crisis by buying up affordable buildings and tripling rent.
Time and again, Mark Carney tried to distance himself from Justin Trudeau, repeatedly saying he only became Prime Minister a month ago. But the Bloc Québécois leader, Yves-François Blanchet, wasn't having any of that.
Mr. Poilievre is not Justin Trudeau. I'm not Justin Trudeau either, okay? In this election, the question is, who is going to succeed? Who is going to face Mr. Trump?
Same parties, same ministers, same caucus, same ideology, same hostility against Quebec. It's not just because the leader changes that the philosophy will magically change overnight.
One notable moment of the night came when Jagmeet Singh took the moderator to task, accusing the CBC's Patrice Roy of limiting his time and not allowing him to talk about health care.
During this debate, I have tried to bring up health a few times. Mr. Roy cut me off a number of times. Look at my time on the clock. Every time I tried to bring up health care, I was responding directly to something that Mr. Carney said, because health is something that is important for me. It is about identity. It's something I am very passionate about, and every time I tried to bring it up, Mr. Roy called me out and cut me off. That is not fair.
And perhaps the most lighthearted moment of the night was when the party leaders were asked what American products they don't buy anymore. Mr. Blanchette went first.
I buy my own strawberries.
So you don't buy strawberries anymore?
I buy Quebec strawberries, and I do my own shopping, by the way.
So what products have you not bought, Mr. Carney?
No more wine, no more alcohol, no more American alcohol.
I do my own shopping, and I cook at home. Lots of products. Fruits, there's a lot of Canadian apples.
So you're making an effort?
Yes, I'm making an effort with apples, other fruit, strawberries.
The strawberries thing is a dig at Mark Carney because he told an interview a few weeks ago that he doesn't buy his own strawberries or even shop for his own groceries, that he has staff to do that for him. This evening, they do it all over again. It is the English language debate from the same CBC Montreal studio. Well-known Ontario broadcaster Steve Paikin of TVO will be the moderator, and that starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
On News Radio.
Well, he's my friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is back with us, syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, with us every Thursday. Hello there.
Hey, Rob. How are you doing today?
I'm just great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you today. So let's talk about the French language debate.
Sure.
What'd you think of it?
I mean, look, obviously, we can go through the whole rigmarole that debates, don't change hearts and minds. And I think that's been the case with leaders' debates in this country and many other democratic nations for decades. And we've talked about it ad nauseum, and it's mostly true. But on the other hand, if you did watch it, and you do watch it, you would actually see that, the performance of the leaders may not necessarily match, well, the way that some polls are showing things to be, but maybe a little bit closer to polls that are getting more and more narrow, because there's a wide range of that too. Long story short, the top performers were Blanchette and Poilievre. There's no question of that. They were.
Why do you say that, Michael? Why do you think that?
Well, they were the strongest by far, best command of the language. They were able to express their points very well. They could retort, things that, against Mark Carney, the current prime minister, and others, exceptionally well. And they both got up, bits of humor, memorable lines. That's how you perform best, if you actually do something that is memorable in the minds of the viewer. And both Blanchette and Poilievre really did very well in there, and really they were the ones, to me, who came out the furthest ahead. Between the other two, that being Jagmeet Singh of the NDP and Prime Minister Mark Carney, the Liberal, Singh did a little bit better simply because he had to. In the polls, he is really struggling hard. He's fighting to get the NDP closer to 10%. So he's got to do something to start breaking apart the progressive vote, which has largely shifted to Carney and the Liberals as of late. And the way he did that was he tried to do typical lines of attack against his opponents, which is unsurprising, and a lot of it was unfounded. But he also tried to bring in policy issues, mentioning the monarchy and various other things, to try to distinguish himself from the other progressive parties, that being the Liberals, the Greens, etc. That actually is, for his slim hopes of doing anything or surviving politically, I think that actually worked to his benefit. And if he's able to do that in the English language debate too, he has a chance to break up the progressive left. The big issue, it was Carney. He was awful. I don't care what the CBC says. He was just awful in what he did. He just no command of the language, no ability to answer things. Looked, just like withdrawn throughout. Couldn't handle any of the retorts that Blanchette, Poilievre, and Singh even provided against him. And yet the CBC comes out and said he didn't look too bad overall and actually won the debate in some eyes. I don't know what on earth they're talking about. Okay.
What did you think of the format and the moderator? I will say I thought the moderator was terrific, Patrice Waugh. I thought he interjected when he had to. He kept people on time, but he didn't insert himself into the debate, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yes,
what did you think?
Yes, I do. Yeah, no. I mean, very briefly, yes, I agree with you. I think Rod did an excellent job. And I think similarly for the English language debate, Steve Paikin does sort of the same style. And because of that, I think those are the best types of moderators. You don't want moderators who dominate the debate. You want them who allow the ebbs and flows to work properly and to not have too much dead air and a lot of intelligent conversation and healthy debate. So, yeah, Rod did very well.
Okay. Then there were what they call the post-debate scrums. So you have, the French media is lined up here, the English media is lined up here. There's a microphone there. The leaders come to the microphone. Yeah. And some of the traditional, what I would call mainstream media, print media, television media, not happy that during the post-debate scrums, there were a lot of questions from independent media, what the mainstream media calls far-right media. Rebel, Juno News, True North. What do you think of that complaint?
It's not a complaint. It's just nonsense that they're coming up with, and they're just frustrated that companies and individuals that they don't agree with ideologically have had all this extra time to ask questions that they feel, for the most part, are not pertinent either to what was discussed at the debate or what's going on in the election. Look, to be fair, I don't agree with everything that these organizations, be it Rebel News, Juno News, which is a combination of True North and the Counter Signal and others, present. I agree with some things, not with others. They have their controversial moments, that's fine. But at the same time, it's healthy because we do have an independent media, and the media landscape, as both you and I know, Rob, is shifting dramatically.
Yep. Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with having differences of opinion and different ideas. And quite frankly, when you have CBC panels with, Andrew Coyne losing his mind, and Althea Raj and Chantal Hébert and Rosemary, Rosemary
like
Barton,
it's all the kind of the usual suspects on that side, right? Yeah. And they don't make their case look strong at all, because they're trying to basically say, well, no, we're the ones who actually, the legacy media, we're the ones who control the agenda, and these silly little independent far-right nut jobs, they're the ones who are causing problems. Well, you know what? They may want to look themselves in the mirror, because the independent media, no matter who it is, and we can also include the Hub and various others in there, they are gaining steam. They are gaining subscribers because they're doing things differently. I have as many subscriptions to what I would call indie media now than I have to traditional media. I have a lot of traditional subscriptions, Post Media, The Globe, The Star, too many that are very expensive. I also subscribe to Blacklock's Reporter. Love those guys. The Hub, as you mentioned, Sean Spear and what he's doing there. Paul Wells is totally on his own now.
On his Substack, he's doing well there.
And I subscribe to that as well. So I think they're just like, calm down. Okay, there needs to be a recognition. This is not the era of the newspaper comes in the morning and maybe again in the afternoon, and everybody gathers around and watches the supper hour news. Okay, those days are over. All right,
really,
and they're not coming back. We are in a new media era now, and that's just the way it is. All right, when we come back, I want to talk about the Debates Commission. Why do we do this? It doesn't need to be this way. It actually, in my opinion, used to be so much better. The Debates Commission, I would just remind people back in 2015 how many debates there were. There was a variety of debates. Rogers, parent company of this radio station, put on debates. Paul Wells was the moderator. The Globe and Mail, you may remember that debate, Michael, that they had in Calgary.
I do.
And then the consortium of broadcasters, CBC, CTV, Global, they put on a debate. The Monk Debates had a debate that was in coordination with Facebook. That was just about foreign affairs. And the TVA debate, Face à Face, they had that as well. And then somewhere along the way, we said, we're not going to do it like this. I guess the Liberals decided, well, the government's going to run the debates, and there'll be one in French and one in English. And
you got it.
That's kind of been the way it's been. And I don't think they're doing a great job, to be honest with you. The Debates Commission. What do you think?
No, and I think you explained it quite well. And yes, it was largely the Liberals who decided that and changed the nature of how basically the debate commissions operate. And you're quite right. There were many more options. And, it was actually great, not just for television viewers, but if you want to use a kind of the consumer model, you had a choice of what you want to watch. If you wanted to watch it in English, that's great. You want to watch it in French, that's fine. And if you wanted to watch debates specifically oriented to topics, be it foreign policy, say if it had been involved in business or whatnot, that's the way it should be. And that's the way these debates should be run and operated. Now, sure, some people would say, well, 5 debates, that's overkill. Okay, but you don't have to watch them all if you don't want. We've come now down to the point where basically CBC controls 2 of them. We would have had a third, another French language debate, the TVA debate. But of course, naturally, Liberal Prime Minister Mark Carney, after agreeing after during a presser when a media question said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then a few hours later dropped out for the obvious reasons that his French is terrible. And as we saw last night, he's a lousy debater. And I do mean lousy. We're down to 2. It's not enough. So, yes, debate commission should be reformed, fixed up. Yeah. I've written about it. Others have too. And I think you emphasized it correctly, Rob.
Okay. So you mentioned Steve Paikin is going to be the moderator. Now, he may not be well known in other parts of the country. He's quite well known in Ontario. He's the host of a show on Ontario's public broadcaster, TBO, called The Agenda, and it's a current affairs show. You've been on it. I believe you were on it last night. Is that right?
I was. I've been on it.
You were on it last night.
I've been
isn't
on it
that
many
cool?
times in the past. Yeah.
So, I mean, he's a very experienced debate moderator. For people in other parts of the country, just a little bit about him, please.
Sure, certainly. I mean, Steve Paikin has been around for decades. I mean, he worked at the CBC for many years. He's been with TVO, which used to be TV Ontario, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 30 years. I can't remember it off the top of my head. Extremely experienced, and you and I kind of alluded to in the first segment, he's a very natural moderator, host, in the sense that he allows his guests to control the flow of it. Now, sure, like anybody who's a TV host, much like you're a radio host, you have to interject yourself every so often if, say, I don't know, a guest goes off too much on a tangent. Yeah.
Rein them in.
Way.
I do that to you
I'm
sometimes.
Kind of doing right now, and that's what your role is. I get it. But that's what Paikin does, and he does it very well, and he's one of the best in the country at it.
Okay. Well, we'll see what the night brings, if there are any fireworks or knockout blows. No knockout blows yet, but it should be a good one tonight, I think, at 7:00. Hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much, Michael. We'll speak soon.
My pleasure. Happy Easter to you and your family.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Michael Taube, syndicated columnist and speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.
The Newsday Panel.
Yes, it is time for our Newsday Panel. Ariella Kimmel is back, president of Winston Wilmot. How are you today, Ariella?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to hear from you. Ashton Arsenault here as well, partner at Crestview Strategy. Hi, Ashton.
How you doing, Rob?
I'm good. Thank you. Very good. So let's start by recapping last night's French language debate, the leaders' debate. Ariella, who won?
The candidate I wanted to win definitely won the debate, is how social media is playing this out.
Right.
I don't think anybody actually won. There was no major knockout punch. I do, obviously, looking at what every one of them needed to do, Pierre had to come out looking like a prime minister, not the opposition leader, and he did do that.
You think he won?
I honestly don't think there was any knockout punch.
Okay.
I don't think anyone watched this and really changed their minds.
Okay. Ashton, who won?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you assess it from each party leader's vantage point, and I think, Ariel is correct here, partisans of all stripes like to send around press releases after debates claiming their leader was the victor in a tale as old as time. But for me, Carney survived. I think probably Blanchette won if I had to anoint a victor. Naturally, I'm a little bit more invested in this evening, but I concur with Ariella. It was quite predictable. I thought pretty muted, and certainly no knockout punch. Kind of a boring debate would be my vantage
Boring
point.
Debate. Okay. I would suggest to you there was a loser, and I thought the loser was Jagmeet Singh. I didn't think he performed very well at all, for multiple reasons. Mr. Singh's party is bleeding support to the Liberals. And this is my own analysis. He spent far too much time going after Pierre Poilievre, not nearly enough time trying to kneecap Mark Carney. He complained to the moderator, which is like sore loser type stuff in a hockey game, complaining about bad refereeing. And I thought the way he conducted himself during the segment on the Israel-Palestinian situation, I thought it was disgraceful. That's my opinion. I think Jagmeet Singh lost this debate, lost it big time. Ariella?
Oh, I 100% agree with you. He used predictable attacks. He was, as you said, focused on Pierre, which is odd. Like, they're not bleeding supporters to the conservatives. He should be appealing to progressives. And again, like, as you said, he's, the only place I really found that he tried to go on the attack with Carney was on the Israel-Palestine issue, which I also would like to mention that, like, aside from a brief mention of Ukraine, Israel-Palestine is the only conflict that gets like a huge focus, and I'm just really interested why. But he was trying to wedge Carney to look more quote unquote progressive against him when it comes to Israel and Palestine, and didn't even successfully do that, but still kind of tried to push the false narrative of it being a genocide, which he's trying to use to his advantage because he knows there's people out there who will back them and support them because of using that word.
What did you think of Mr. Singh's performance last night, Ashton?
Yeah, I thought he was weak. He's proven to be weak in his entire chairmanship of the party. I will actually agree with you, Rob, and I'll actually lump Blanchette into that bucket too, because I cannot for the life of me figure out why either of those leaders are wasting their precious time exercising what appears to be, at least to me, a personal grudge against Pierre Poilievre when it's clear for all to see that their parties are bleeding support to the Liberals. And so, again, like, I'm of the position that it's political malpractice of the highest order, and it's really no wonder why both of those campaigns are sputtering.
Okay, what'd you think of the format? Ashton, what'd you think of the format?
Boring, predictable, blasé, too controlled, too tight. It doesn't really allow the party leaders to do much in the way of ad-libbing, and it just makes for a really uninspired, not exciting viewer experience. It was a chore to watch the debate.
It was at times, and I'll give you an example of what frustrated me. Okay, these are serious issues. Okay, Donald Trump, the cost of living, all of these things. So they do a big introduction. Pictures of Donald Trump, people on the street, interviews, come back to the moderator. He talks a little bit. They put a graphic up on the screen. This is, this is this and this. And then they go, okay, Mr. Poilievre, what would you do about Donald Trump and tariffs? You have 35 seconds. 35 seconds.
Exactly.
You're supposed to explain your position or a possible solution to anything in 35 seconds? Come on. What kind of format is that? It's ridiculous. What did you think, Ariella?
I fully agree with both you and Ashton. It's a boring format that acts basically like an interview of the candidates. It's not a real debate. There's no real conversation, but it also just allows for sound bites. There's no substantive policy discussions throughout it. There's no real differentiation between each leader except for what their quick little quip is.
Yeah. The moderator was good though. I thought he was pretty fair. I know Mr. Singh had his problems with him, but I thought he was pretty fair. Patrice Waugh, any thoughts on the moderator?
Only insofar as I have qualms with the entire premise of the debate commission.
Right.
Yeah,
well, we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that.
Look, I think the moderator was fine. When the moderator becomes part of the story at all, it's a surefire way of knowing that the moderator failed. And so the moderator isn't in the news, therefore they did not fail.
Do you agree with that, Ariella?
Yeah, I generally agree with that. I mean, I think he, again, on the Israel-Palestine issue, he glommed onto, what Jamie said and kept it going. And I do think that was kind of my only issue there. But otherwise, he was as boring as the rest of the debate, and that's a good thing from a moderator.
That's a good thing for a moderator. Yeah, you're right. Okay, when we come back to the scrums, we will go. So after the debate, as is often the case, the leaders go to the microphones and the reporters line up to ask questions, and awaiting the party leaders, many people from independent media or what some are describing as far-right media. And some people in the traditional media are unhappy. Unhappy might even be an understatement. Apoplectic might be a better description. That outlets like Rebel News, for example, were allowed into the event in the first place, let alone to ask questions during these post-debate scrums. What do you think of those complaints, Ariella?
I mean, I'm not surprised by them, but I guess the commission didn't want to get sued again. They were, the courts did make a decision last time that Rebel News was allowed to attend. Rebel News tried to take them back to court again on the numbers, and that's how you ended up with 6 of them there. I accept that, that non-traditional media were literally, monopolized the majority of questions. And so that's really on the debate commission for not being able to actually properly organize that and make sure that it wasn't that way.
Okay. What do you think, Ashton?
Yeah, I'll go a slightly different direction. I mean, I was very much amused by how much pearl clutching there was last night by the traditional media on Twitter or X. It was a bit comical to me. And, it's clear that they believe in the status quo and get upset easily should sacred cows be threatened. But as best as I can tell, there is a bit of a accreditation process for journalists of all stripes to get the credentials required to be at that presser. And to Ariella's point, there's been some court challenges on this in the past. I'm not sure specifically what metrics need to be met to get a badge at the end of the day. But, apparently all played by the rules at the end of the game, and this was the result. And so, look, you're allowed to hate the player, but you're never allowed to hate the game, and a ton of people are hating the game as of last night, and it's probably not the last we've heard of this, and I am expecting a bit of a redo tonight.
A redo tonight, okay, after the English language debate. So, I mean, it's a perfect way to kind of segue into why we have a leaders' debates commission at all. I mean, I'm not fond of this. I would like as many debates as possible on as many topics as possible. That would just be my preference. The government has set up this. The government will run the debates, and all the technical stuff and will be done by the CBC. I don't like that. Is it time? And it's funny, after all of this outrage over Rebel News and these other outlets being allowed to ask questions, you have mainstream media people saying, we've got to get rid of this debates commission. Like this, we've got to blow this thing up. It's no good. I agree. What do you think, Ariella? Should we perform MAID on the leaders debate commission?
I think they self-imploded. But, in 2015, we had no debate commission, yet there were 5 debates, 3 in English, 2 in French. They were spaced out throughout the election in different formats and each focused on different things. And I think in an election where, people are trying to get to know Carney and his policies and be more focused, having these kinds of debates that are not all right before we go into advanced, voting, and they're not just focused on 10 issues at once, it would be helpful, especially some of the stuff that was in the French one yesterday won't be talked about in the English one today. So immigration and foreign affairs, for example. So I do think that it does not give the voters an actual insight into who they're voting for.
I mean, that was actually one of the highlights of the whole debate last night. They had a decent debate about immigration, and it's not even going to happen tonight in English. One of the hottest issues, and one of the biggest policy failures, coincidentally, of the Liberal government, the fracturing of the immigration system. Nope, not up for debate. What should happen with this debate commission, Ashton, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think, the path to hell is often paved with good intentions. And, I think at the outset, this was set up to sort of take political decision making out of the equation. And of course, like many things that the government likes to put its sticky fingers in, it has failed spectacularly. And it's not lost on me that legacy media organizations, when this was first rolled out, were huge fans of it. Oh, look, it's going to protect our place in the ecosystem, and we're going to have sort of unfettered access, and we're not going to have to deal with all of these renegade breakaway media organizations. This can truly be ours. And of course, when it falls flat in their face, they're the first to scream bloody murder. And of course, now everybody wants to get rid of it, right? So I think this is dead and dusted after this election. It seems like nobody wants it in its current iteration. I, of course, once again, with government being involved, have grave concerns about the next iteration of this. But it's not working for anybody involved at the moment.
Okay, we'll be right back on the Newsday panel.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with Ariella Kimmel from Winston-Wilmot and from Crestview Strategy, Ashton Arsenault for our Newsday panel. So let's very quickly just go through what you think some of the main goals are for Carney, Poilievre, and Singh for tonight. Ariella, just a quick synopsis there.
Carney needs to stay boring. Singh needs to stop attacking Pierre and focus on winning back progressive voters. And Pierre needs to show he's prime ministerial, but still come out with stronger attacks to actually show the difference between him and Carney.
Does he have to be harder on Carney than he was last night?
Yeah,
he does. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Go for it. Okay. What do you think, Ashton?
Yeah, I mean, Carney needs to emerge unscathed and avoid getting irritated. Poilievre has to spend the bulk of his time ensuring potential switch voters and undecideds that he represents the greatest opportunity for change. I agree with Ariella. Has to go much harder at Carney and label him as a continuation of the last 10 years. Singh, I assume he's already polishing up his resume, but he has to convince NDP voters, to come home. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah.
And Blanchette's in a bit tough tonight, but his role is pretty clear to me. He needs to be Captain Quebec and ensure all that watch that he is first and foremost Quebec first.
Okay, let me run this by you. What happens once the debates are over? Okay, the debates are over. You can't have a do-over. What happens in a campaign? What do the campaigns do next? Is it all about mobilization, ground game, the get out the vote? Because advanced polls are going to be open, I think, tomorrow, as a matter of fact. Ariella, what do you think?
Yeah, I think with advanced polls opening tomorrow, the campaigns have to kind of shift to getting their known supporters and strong supporters out right away and ensuring they vote early. And I think, I think you'll still see with Pierre like a few rallies, like the big rallies, to show that they have momentum and show that there is change coming. And really, I do think to send the message that voting for Pierre will, it will create something different in this country. So I do think there's that. I do assume the Liberals will kind of keep bubble wrapping Carney as we sprint to the finish line. And who knows what Jagmeet Singh will be doing other than preparing to lose his own rating.
Right. Okay. What do you do next week if you're running these campaigns, Ashton?
Yeah, there's a bit of math involved, right? So the more of your supporters that you can get out to the polls this weekend, the less you have to worry about on election day. And there's a process for that. I mean, there's individualized lit pieces. You got to make sure people know where they're voting. Oftentimes the advanced station's different than where you would vote on election day. So there's a lot that goes into it. And, the time for IDing vote or identifying who's going to support who is pretty much over. So now you're working with the pool that you have.
Yeah, it's who's on our side.
That's right.
How do we get in touch with those people, and how do we make sure they get to a polling booth? Do we need to drive them there? With the advanced polls, I mean, that starts tomorrow. I think the whole mobilization game has to start tomorrow. For these 100%. Campaigns.
I think turnout's going to matter in this one.
Oh, yeah. Look, thank you. Have a happy Easter long weekend to both of you, and thank you for your time today. Great insight. Speak
Thanks,
soon.
Rob.
Enjoy the debate tonight. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Ashton.
That's Ariella Kimmel is the president of Winston-Wilmot, and Ashton Arsenault is a partner at Crestview Strategy. And if you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, now you know with Rob Snow. There's a great new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. It has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. You can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled Seekr. And now you know with Rob Snow is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up right after the latest breaking news, it's Talkback. And because we are away tomorrow, we're doing a free-for-all today. It's a Thursday free-for-all. So we're open line, open topic, whatever's on your mind. You want to talk debates, you want to talk election, you want to talk politics, we can talk about that. If you want to talk about anything else, we're all ears. Talkback starts right after the news. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today it is a Thursday free-for-all. Yes, a Thursday free-for-all. We normally do the free-for-all on Fridays, but we're off tomorrow. Stat holiday, Good Friday and everything. So today is your last chance to have your say this week on Talkback. Offer your opinion. We will be back on Monday. We're wide open today. Open line, open topic, old school, call in, radio, whatever happens to be on your mind. We are ready to go. If you want to talk about something that has been in the news, well, you go for it. If you want to talk about something you think should be in the news, you feel free to raise it here. Whatever it happens to be, we await your call. Our call-in line is 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. If you have never called us before, just mention that to David, that you're a first-time caller. David's screening the calls today, and we'll make your call a priority. Again, 1-833-668-2577. There's lots to talk about, that's for sure. To Cape Breton Island, Michael up first today on Talkback. Hello, Michael.
Happy Easter, Mr. Snow.
Thank you, Michael. Just call me Rob.
I watched that debate last night. I really enjoyed it.
You did?
I
Okay.
knew Jagmeet Singh was going to get health care into that debate. He left it as a main program.
Right.
And I'm glad he did, too. It made his point and it made his night. And I thought he done really well, you know, and I was glad of that. But, Rob, I'm going to ask you something. I heard a Steve fella call, not your program, Todd's, and he mentioned Bernie, and he mentioned my name. Like you shouldn't have a point of view on politics or anything like that. I would have called and answered him on Todd's show, but Todd wouldn't let me on the air for some reason. But anyway, thank you very much, buddy. That debate tonight should be really interesting.
Well, you know, I don't know.
Live my life by it.
Okay. Now, I have to ask you, just let me ask you, Michael, before you run off there. Jagmeet Singh was complaining last night that the moderator was not giving him equal time, that every time he wanted to bring...
just got after television and said, they shortchanged him on time, and Singh had every right to go after the moderator, and they compensated him for the lost time during the program.
Yeah,
but
I know.
He was nearly 3 minutes behind the rest of them.
Yeah, 2.5 minutes. Yeah, I know that healthcare is a provincial responsibility, but healthcare doesn't. But hold on, Michael. Let me finish. Healthcare doesn't function, even the way it's functioning now, which is not very well. It doesn't function without significant funding from the federal government. So the idea that this is not a national issue should not be included in a national debate, to me, is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, when you think that all the money comes from the federal government to fund it across for all the provinces,
well, of course,
if they got more money to put into it to maintain it and make sure everybody honors the principles of public health care, I think they have got to say. It should always
I think
have
that was a big mistake, not having health care as one of the topics. But thank you for your call.
It's called dumbing down the people.
All right, Michael. Thank you. I'm going to move along. Thanks, Mike, for your call today. Good to hear from Cape Breton today. And as well, last night, I mean, one of the best parts of the debates was they actually had a robust conversation about immigration, hot issue, especially in Quebec because it ties into identity and culture. But it's also been a hot issue all across the country, issues with the with the immigration system, and yet it is not even going to be part of the English language debate tonight, which I think is another misfire by this incompetent debates commission. Karen in Calgary. Hello, Karen.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Karen. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Happy Easter to you.
Happy Easter to you, Karen. Did you watch the debate last night?
I did, and I have a question.
Did? Okay. All right.
When you guys see the debate in the East, do you have an option to watch the French or the English CPAC?
I don't know. I just watched the CPAC feed, and the feed I watched was automatically translated. So, the translators.
So that's what I want to talk about. For when I watched it, it came across in English. And
right.
I had somebody here today, and he said, Mark Carney was terrible in French. And I thought, why does he sound so composed in the translation? And if you notice, it sounded exactly like his voice. He had the same translator the whole time.
Well,
where everyone else had
if you want to pick apart the nuances of Mark Carney's command of French, you would have to watch the French debate, right?
I know, but I was just wondering if they chose French for you and English for us, or
No,
was.
No, nothing like that. No, nothing untoward.
Okay,
there.
I was just curious because it's Western.
So what did you think of it? What did you think of it? Who did well? Who didn't do well? What did you think?
Well, I thought I thought Pierre won. I thought Carney was very nervous. He looked like he just wanted to go home. He looked like you could always see his feet moving and his mouth was making all these weird faces and stuff like that.
Okay.
And everyone, I just thought he looked very uncomfortable.
Okay. Well, I think the goal for him was to survive the night. I mean, it's not, imagine if we threw you in there and said you have to, try and keep up with these other three people who are fluent in French and have been in the House of Commons for decades, Karen. How would you do? Right? Probably.
I would be terrible. I can listen to French, but I can't speak French.
Right. Oui, la salle de bain. Okay. Thank you, Karen. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend, Rob.
You too. 1-833-668-2577. People want to talk about the debate, the election campaign. That's fine, but we are open line, open topic because we're doing a free-for-all today because we're away tomorrow. We would usually do our free-for-all tomorrow. A few free lines there. We'd love to hear from you. Come join the discussion. This is Talkback on News Radio. Kyle up next in Listowel. Hello, Kyle.
What's going on? So today,
what's going on with you? What do you want to talk about?
Well, today's my birthday, so I guess I'm getting a pretty good treat of watching the federal debate tonight for it. So what I decided to do is I got myself a 6-pack of beer, got myself a bottle of whiskey, and I'm going to make it a drinking game tonight to make it fun.
Oh my gosh! Okay, well, try to make it to the end, Kyle.
I'll try to make it to the end, but I think it'll be interesting. I mean, I didn't watch the debate last night because I had to my Montreal Canadiens win last night, and also the Kitchener Rangers was on.
Holy cow.
I think it'll be interesting to see. I don't think Jamie is going to really do much, but I think the two main one that I'll be watching is definitely Pierre and Carney go after it and see how well Carney could actually rebuttal when Pierre brings out some pretty good points to still being part of Trudeau's posse there and stuff. But
all right, so David, just hold on, Kyle. So David, jump into the conversation here. Okay, Kyle's going to have a drinking game. He's got a 6-pack of beer, and a bottle of whiskey.
Wow.
So what do you think could come up in the debate tonight that every time a candidate says this, Kyle has to take a shot?
Okay, I like it. Every time, Trump, yeah. How about this? Every time Mark Carney says he knows how the world works, you have to take a drink.
Kyle has to take a shot. Right.
All right. So I'm writing this down, Ace. Every time the world turns or world works, I have to take a shot.
Okay.
All right, got it.
Or every time Pierre Poilievre says "lost liberal decade."
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
All right. You have to take a shot.
Lost liberal decade. Got that. Okay.
Yeah.
What about Singh? What about for Singh?
Yeah. For Singh, I would say billionaires.
Yeah.
Every time every time he says billionaires, you have to take a shot. And if you're still alive on Monday, call us back and tell us how long it took you to recover.
Right. Enjoy the debate responsibly.
Yes, enjoy the debate responsibly.
What about for the Bloc?
Quebec?
Yeah.
For Quebec.
Let's do one more.
Just whenever you say, for Quebec. For Quebec. Yeah. Okay. Good luck,
All right,
Kyle.
I love it. Thanks, guys.
Good luck.
Have a good weekend. Happy Easter.
You too. Stay hydrated, my friend. I predict a rough morning for Kyle tomorrow. Bill in Kitchener is up next. Hello, Bill.
Yes, hello. How are you?
I'm good, Bill. How are you? What do you want to talk about, Bill?
Very good, very good. So I've been thinking about people that are always complaining about all these great crowds for Polyev, and and that he could definitely pull out a victory. But what strikes me is Polyev gets the 40% that he's sort of showing in the polls. He's still doing like maybe 20% better than the previous two conservative candidates. And he still could lose if all that other NDP vote and some of the Bloc vote goes to Carney, and if Carney winds up with close to 50%.
Yeah,
so
kind of crazy.
They both could be right. Polyev could do a lot better than previous conservative candidates, but if he's that much outpaced by Carney, then there's going to be a pretty massive Liberal win on Election Day.
Yeah, you're probably not far off there. I mean, the best performance recently for the Conservative Party in an election campaign was 2011 when Stephen Harper won his one and only majority government. He got 39 point something in the polls. That was good enough for a majority government. Keep in mind, in 2019 and 2021, the Liberals they managed to pull out at least minority wins with barely 33% of the vote. Polyev could get 40 on election night, and as you say, still lose. Yeah, it's a good point, Bill.
Yep. And also, I think that unfortunately for them, I think the Conservatives across Canada, they seem to have a ceiling, which is, I would say, if it was really just an actual two-party race, their ceiling looks to be about 45%. Now, how they could work that into a majority if they were forced to go against just one single party, they might have to modify some of their positions. 45% isn't a bad result.
Yeah,
but it certainly doesn't lead you into majority territory.
But it's also
one other party.
Like when I speak to pollsters about this, various strategists and whatnot, they talk about vote efficiency. 40% for the Liberals is different from 40% from the Conservatives, because so much of the Conservative strength is concentrated in Western Canada, and there just aren't many seats in Western Canada. No. 40% for the Liberals means 40% in Montreal, and 40% in Toronto, and 40% in Ottawa, right? And the big cities. You could throw in Halifax, St. John's, Moncton, Vancouver. Vancouver, right? So. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for the Conservatives. Although there is one poll out today. Leger says in the GTA, where all of those seats are, and I mean the greater Toronto area, where all of those seats are in all of those communities, east, west, and north of the old 416 of Toronto, the race is really narrowed there. Like it's down to a couple of percentage points, which is really good news for the Conservatives.
Yeah. Well,
could totally reshape the race.
We will see next Monday.
Oh, yeah. 11 days to go. 11 days to go.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for your call. Yeah, let's stop here, David. And we'll be back. Neil and Wade and Marcel as well. I'll want to jump in and get in on the conversation on Talkback. We will do that with you all shortly here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Neil in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hi, Neil.
How are you today, Rob?
I'm good, Neil. What's on your mind?
Great. I heard Doug Ford on CTV this morning, and I didn't catch all of it. I was running out the door, but he talked about getting the minerals out of the ground in Ontario and on the 15 years of, trying to get projects out. And he sounded exactly like Pierre Poilievre. So I was just kind of wondering, I don't know if you've heard the clip, but I wonder if he's starting to change around a little bit this late time in the election.
I don't know. I mean, there's a deep chasm between those two. I mean, there are personality conflicts, I think, happening behind the scenes. He feels, I think, slighted Polyev never reached out to him even after he won back-to-back elections. Polyev's top person used to work with Doug Ford, and I guess there was some kind of falling out there. So, I mean, it's all behind the scenes soap opera drama kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I just thought I'd mention that because I thought it was very, very interesting that he would actually state Pierre Poilievre's policies on what's been going on with trying to develop, for example, the Ring of Fire and other minerals in Ontario.
Yeah, Ring of Fire. My gosh, it'd be nice to get some advancements on that Ring of Fire.
Yes, would it ever?
I mean, the abundance of riches up there is, it's incredible. I mean, I've been talking about that thing for Ring of Fire, trying to think, 12 years, 13 years. And of course, you have to strike negotiations, and they've been striking negotiations with First Nations and whatnot in order to get that done.
Right.
But they haven't even built a road to the thing. And when I've talked to people who are experts in like mining and that kind of territory. This is how it was described to me: the Ring of Fire. Like, it's 500 miles north of Thunder Bay. Like, you can imagine where this stuff is. Like, it's fly-in only. Like, real rough and tumble people are up there staking claims and everything. It was described to me. It's like mining on the other side of the moon, sir. Right now.
Right. Yeah, it's like going to Sudbury. Sorry.
Oh yeah, but it's way, way north of Sudbury, though. That's the thing. Yeah. Right. But the potential is huge.
Yeah, it is. But the whole thing comes down to, as far as what the Liberals have done over the 10 years or longer, whatever it was, is that they've kept everything in the ground. We can't ship things out to anybody else in the world. And we're paying for it now because of Trump.
Yeah.
And to change that around, I don't know why people are looking at it as a Trump election. It should be, look what's happened in the past, and let's get Canada together and have some money so we can have more transfer payments for the other provinces who really, really need it.
Yeah. Like the Ring of Fire, I mean, about a decade ago, the big buzz about the Ring of Fire, before rare earth elements really took off as kind of like the hot thing in mining, was chromite. It's apparently one of the largest deposits of chromite in the world. So chromite, for people who don't know, is this element or mineral or something that it gives stainless steel its kind of like shine, and it's in huge demand because, they use it in appliances, stainless steel appliances and all of this stuff. And it was likened to, it's like the oil sands for chromite, basically, is what they have there in Northern Ontario. And all of these years later, they haven't even managed to build a road. Like, that's the state of things with natural resources projects in this country.
Ford said this morning, people are blocking all this with bureaucracy and this.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
If you can have 1,000 people block such large projects for 40 million people who can benefit, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And why is it all?
It doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, you're right. Okay, Neil, great to hear from you. Obviously, we're having a situation with our phone. That's on our end, not on Neil's end, and we're going to fix that up lickety-split. Be back right after the latest breaking news here on Talkback.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Politics again dominating the discussion today on Talkback, but again, it's open line, open topic. It's a free-for-all today. If you watched the First Leaders debate last night, love to know your impressions. If you didn't watch it and want to know our impressions, I watched it, so you didn't have to, and I'd be happy to share some thoughts. I thought 3 of the 4 party leaders had pretty good nights. I think 1 party leader did not. I thought Poilievre had a great night. He wasn't a pit bull or an attack dog. He might have to be a little more aggressive tonight. I thought he kind of came across as calm, cool, collected. Obviously someone with a command of the issues. Performed very well. Mark Carney was okay. But the goal for Mark Carney was different than Poilievre. Carney's the front runner. Carney's thing was to survive. Like, that was job number 1 for him. And this is not his natural habitat. He does not speak French very well. He got through it. Was he spectacular? No, but he didn't need to be. The expectations for him were set so low. So his goal was to do no harm. Do no harm. And I thought he did that. Blanchette landed a few good shots on Carney. He had a good singer about tax havens. Had a good line about how Carney's whole team is the same as Justin Trudeau's team. And he got a dig in about Carney doesn't buy his own groceries. All in all, solid leader. Solid effort from the Bloc leader. Singh was terrible. He was terrible. He spent way too much time. His party's bleeding support to the Liberals. He spent way too much time going after the Conservatives. Not nearly enough time on Carney. He needs NDP voters who say they're going to vote for the Liberals now to come back to the NDP. And he never prosecuted that case. And then he whined about the moderator, who did a great job, by the way, Patrice Waugh. But when you complain about the moderator, it's like a hockey team complaining about the referee. Only losers blame the referee. Okay? That's my take. Wade in Sylvan Lake. Hello, Wade.
Rob.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, Wade. What's up? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I believe that at one time, not so many years ago, the CBC were reputable in reporting unbiased information because it was a communication method to the people when there really wasn't a whole lot of other methods of communicating that existed.
Right.
But now that's not the case. And defunding the CBC, I think, would be a great step. I don't believe there should be any business that should be propped up by the government. If you start a business, a news outlet, whatever it is, and you can't stand on your own 2 feet, I guess you don't need to exist.
Okay. So no government support for any media enterprise at all?
None at all.
No. Okay. What about, for example, now, Poilievre was defund the CBC. He used to mean the whole darn thing, right?
Yeah.
Now he's saying, but not the French CBC.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I believe
you don't agree with that.
The CBC
okay.
should have to go out there and do what all the independent news media do. They go out and they.
Do you see any role? I'm just playing devil's advocate. Do you see any role for, say, a public broadcaster for rural communities, remote communities, First Nations, anything like that?
Well, I wouldn't have a problem personally with a public broadcaster of a very small one.
Right.
If they would just tell both sides of every story, not just the side from the people that are giving them the money.
You think they're in the bag for the Liberals, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Because they know where their bread is buttered, kind of thing.
You bet.
All right. Gotcha, Wade. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to Okotoks. Marcel up next. Hello, Marcel.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon. I mean, it's morning some places, it's afternoon some other places. What do you think, Marcel?
What I'm going to share with you is most probably going to infuriate many of the Canadians in this country.
Okay.
Because I believe we are the author of our own demise.
How do we do that?
We have too much protection. We have no coordination across the country. We don't see and don't speak on the same page. Mm-hmm. We have major problems. Everybody thinks that Trump is a problem. Trump is not the problem. If you really look at it, what he has done for this country is make us look at ourselves and see what are we doing to ourselves. Okay. Interprovincial trade is being talked about now, something that I have written about for years. And now it's coming into the forefront.
Well, if I could just interrupt, Marcel, sir. When you say we have too much protection, what do you mean we have too much protection? Do you mean barriers to entry into our markets, that kind of thing? Is that what you mean? Okay.
Absolutely. Entries in our market. We have internal entries. I've written about it in a paper called for the Ontario government, a red tape paper. We have entries and barriers for professionals within our own provinces. We are the author of our own demises. There's the other problem. Everybody is looking at Trump as the problem. He's not. The real problem is Jagmeet Singh. We are today in this problem because Jagmeet Singh had no idea and no guts at all to call a vote of no confidence in November. And now he's attacking the conservatives so that he can secure himself a place at the table to be once again in a minority government liberal, to be the one pulling the strings. People have got to understand what we are in a situation today. It's not the tariffs. And I'll tell you something else. People are looking at who is the best man to deal with Trump. I have taught negotiations, and I can tell you, nobody in Canada in this particular moment is going to be able to discuss against Trump. He's going to do his own thing. The world is going to have to come to the table whether you like it or not. We're going to be in an economic problem for about 2 or 3 months, but people are going to come back to the table. Whether it's going to be good or not, it's not the issue right now, in my view. And when people start talking
just give me one,
Poilievre is going to be the best man.
Gotcha. Okay, let me ask you this. One quick question. One quick question for you. So, did you watch the debate last night?
Yes, I am totally bilingual, and I can tell you what a disaster as far as Canadians are concerned.
So, supply management is a hot issue in Quebec because there's 8,000 dairy farmers in Quebec. Okay.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them, all 4 of them said supply management is not going to be up for negotiation a free trade deal. You taught negotiation. You said, what did you think about that?
Well, it's a disaster. This is part of the problem. As I said, we are the author of our own demise.
All right, Marcel, I got to run. I'm glad I could get your take on that, though. Very interesting call, sir. Got to run, though. Thank you. Time is tight. Lines are jammed. It's Talkback. A fifth in Waterloo up next. Thursday free for all. Hi, Fifth. What's on your mind?
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
Good. Yeah. What do you want to talk about?
Hockey. So
hockey. Okay.
Ottawa versus Toronto.
Yeah.
So good luck with that, my man. But
I have bad memories when Ottawa faces Toronto in the playoffs. Ottawa won all the games against the Maple Leafs this year. They played 3 times, and Ottawa won all 3 games. But bad memories. The Senators, back when they made the playoffs on a regular basis, they've never beaten the Maple Leafs in the modern era of the Senators. So, fingers crossed.
My other thing is with the elections. Is there I'm thinking of just doing a no decision when I go to the actual elections, because before I was about to vote for Poilievre, and because he's like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of the carbon tax, and I was like, okay, awesome, he's gonna get rid of the carbon tax. Mark Carney came and he got rid of the carbon tax, and I was like, okay, now I don't know who to vote for, because both of them are not helping me, because what I'm looking for is jobs. I'm looking for a job, and they're not none of them are talking about jobs. They're all either talking about Trump or housing or something like that, but nothing about jobs.
Okay.
So that's right. When I go to the voting station, I might just ask them, is there a way to say no decision? Because I'm not.
Well, you can go in and spoil what they call spoil your ballot.
Spoil it. Okay.
Yeah, they call it spoiling your ballot, which means you don't vote for anybody.
Yeah, which I probably might do, because I did right now. I still have a couple of weeks. I might not do the early voting, might do the late one, but I'm still trying to find out who's better. But
there's still 11 days to go, and there's a debate tonight. Maybe one of these individuals will convince you one way or the other. But that's always an option. If you want to spoil your ballot, your choice, I guess. Or you could just stay home.
Yeah,
right. You can just stay home.
Line for the debate and see if the debate is good or not, and who's better, and then find out.
Yeah. Watch the debate. Maybe somebody will say something that says, convinces you finally. That's what I want to hear from one of these people.
Yeah,
exactly. And maybe it convinces you one way or the other.
Right now, I was waiting for them to say something that would convince me to vote for them, and nobody did. Before it was Poilievre with his carbon tax, but as soon as Trudeau went, I was like, he came and he got rid of carbon tax. Like, okay,
he got rid of it, so that's not an issue anymore. Right. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Afif. Let's go to Halifax. Doug is up next in Halifax. Hi, Doug.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Number 1, happy Easter. Number 2, let me say we appreciate you here in Nova Scotia.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Rob, I watched the debate last night, and I don't speak French, which is fine.
Right.
And I thought that, as you said earlier, Carney had to survive. I thought he did okay. Obviously, his French is as good as mine. So, but I think he survived just fine. I think Blanchet did just fine. I am curious if he's going to do well tonight in English, because as he speaks English as well as he speaks French, I'm not sure. And as far as Poilievre goes, I think I told you this before, Rob. I voted Liberal all my life. Mm-hmm. My parents, my grandparents were diehard conservatives, and this time I'll be voting for Poilievre, no question.
Okay.
What I would like to see, Rob, honestly, I know Jagmeet Singh didn't do well last night, but I would like to see a minority conservative government with the NDP, just like it was with the Liberals, doing the same thing it did with the Liberals, so that the Conservatives can't do anything crazy or anything stupid, but they can still do things, and I think the NDP can then forward their agenda forward too at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think hell will freeze over before you ever see any kind of cooperation between the Conservatives and the New Democrats. Now, it would not be, I would say, be more realistic to have the Conservatives cooperate with the Bloc, because they would see eye to eye on things like Quebec identity and respect for provincial jurisdiction and those sorts of things. They would be at loggerheads. They would be at odds over natural resources development, however.
Okay,
I think,
so Rob, please educate me if you would. So if the Conservatives get a minority government, is there enough?
It's not going to last long. It's not going to last long.
But is there enough of the Bloc to support them and make things happen?
Depends how slim the minority government is.
Interesting.
Magic number is 172 for a majority. You need 172 seats, and you will form a majority government. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say something. Right now, the polls say the Conservatives are only on track to maybe win 120. I don't know if they could manage to win, 150 or 160 and somehow win more seats than the Liberals and deny the Liberals a majority government. Maybe there's a way to work some kind of agreement with the Bloc Québécois. If the Bloc Québécois has a dozen seats or 18 seats, maybe you can find some path forward. To me,
Understood.
it's always been for me, it's got to be majority or bust for the Conservatives, because the minority it might actually be unworkable for them. I got to run. Thank you, Doug. Good to hear your voice today. Jody in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hi, Jody.
Oh, hey, Rob.
Hey, Jody. What do you want to talk about?
Since we're talking about Maritimes, I'm from New Brunswick, so
okay.
It's good that we're having.
Are you from northern New Brunswick or the southern part of New Brunswick?
I'm from northern New Brunswick, right across from the Gaspé Coast, right across from Point La Croix. So
Liberals are very strong in that part of New Brunswick, right?
Pardon?
The Liberals are very strong in that part of New Brunswick.
Very strong. My hometown is like liberal central. It's really embarrassing.
Okay.
Just wanted to say that Montreal, my team, whatever, that's my team. They got very lucky last night because Carolina didn't play like 8 or 9 of their players.
Right.
So I just want to.
Well, they're in. They're in. The Montreal. I'm not a big Habs fan, but I'll cheer for Montreal over the Leafs. I'm excited about Montreal. They got a lot of young, exciting players. Their goaltender's playing really well. Montembeault, he's been playing really well. So I wouldn't underestimate them. And you're coming in hot. You're kind of like the Senators that way. They're playing good hockey right now. So look out.
They got a bright future. Montreal, like their rebuilding has been really good. And I'm pulling for Ottawa, of course, too. So and then I'm pulling for Edmonton.
Okay.
But
good.
And one more point about Jagmeet Singh. Like, he was really embarrassing last night. Like he's so desperate that he was attacking Poilievre, and he just wants to get back in there and help the Liberals. Like, that's his agenda. Yeah. So I hope that he loses his seat. I really do. Like
he's polling third. The NDP's polling third in that riding.
Really?
Burnaby South. Yeah. Like way behind.
That's great news, because like the guy's a clown. I'm sorry, he's a clown. He's not like he's just. But I thought last night that I think Poilievre did well, and I think Blanchet did well, and I wish Blanchet would actually leave the Quebec Party and become a conservative, because he makes a lot of good points.
Yeah. He's not a conservative, though. He's a pretty hardcore left-winger. He used to be the environment minister in the Quebec government, right? That's why he's he's a big environmentalist. He's like kind of like, when it comes to that kind of stuff, he's kind of like Guilbeault that way.
Oh, yeah, Stephen Guilbeault. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But, I just think that, I'm pretty sure the Liberals will win, unfortunately. I don't know, a majority or a minority, but I'm hoping that that Singh loses a seat and he just goes away.
All right. Jody, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye. Ole, ole, ole. Paul in Cambridge. Hello, Paul. Not much time today, Paul. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try and make it real quick. I can't figure out the East Coast, how they could possibly vote for a Liberal. Carney started out his campaign there, and the first thing he did was lock the doors and order the cops to prevent any of the fishermen from getting in. And then, of course, he's got his anti-energy, so there'll be no drilling or anything else and along the East Coast, no gas, no oil, no energy. He talked about supply chain management for Quebec. In the last session of Parliament, the Liberals refused to confirm that they would not put the supply chain management on the table.
Supply management,
said, yeah. They would not. Okay. They would not put that on the table.
Well, unless they want a freedom convoy like protesters, only is farmers in Ottawa. That's why they all support supply management.
That's what they said the last time. And this time, we're going to protect supply chain management.
Supply management. Supply management. Gotta go, Paul. That's it. Gotta run. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. We're doing a free-for-all today, although politics is dominating the discussion. We are open line, open topic. We usually do that on Fridays. We're away tomorrow because it is Good Friday. We've been talking about the debate. A lot of people watched last night's French language debate, and tonight it's the English language debate. Much bigger audience, much higher stakes. I mean, here's a question for you. No matter your political leanings, I mean, this is really, you would have to think this is really the last chance for any of these leaders to leave people with an impression. And if there's going to be any course change in the way this election campaign is going, it may come all down to tonight. If you're the Liberals and you think you're in the lead, you want to bury the Conservatives, and you want to wipe that smile right off Poilievre's face. So a question for liberal-leaning people out there, how do you do that? I mean, if you were Mark Carney, how would you go after Poilievre and take it to Poilievre? I mean, we're talking, tonight is the pinnacle of Canadian politics. This is the big leagues. Big-time power is on the line. And you want to leave your opponent beaten up, battered, and bruised. So if Poilievre's your opponent, what do you go after? And for the conservative supporters out there, same question. Liberals have to feel pretty confident right now about where things stand with 11 days to go. I mean, this might be it for the Conservatives. This might be it for Poilievre. You're going to have a huge television audience. You have a lot of voters still haven't made up their mind. You got to land some blows on Mark Carney. You got to get him wobbling a bit. You'd love a knockout blow. How do you go about doing that? How do you take Mark Carney down a notch or two? How do you plant the seeds of doubt in voters who have either left you because of the Trump stuff? How do you win them back? Or how do you win over voters that haven't made up their mind yet? 1-833-668-2577. I mean, if you support the NDP, I mean, you got to get off the mat. Singh is going to have to be a lot better tonight than he was last night to breathe some life into this NDP campaign. You know, in sports, they call it the keys to victory. Here's tonight's keys to victory. The Leafs and Senators game. What are those? Philip is up next. First-time caller in Kitchener. Hi, Philip.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Philip. Good to hear from you.
Okay, my question is, I haven't heard nothing about the vets for the Remembrance Day holiday or the Indigenous People Orange, and I think we should be supporting the vets if they're from way back to World War One or two, or the future vets. I think we should be putting more money into that.
Fair enough.
I haven't heard any topics about that.
No, it hasn't come up at all, has it?
No, and it should.
No. Yeah, it should. Yeah, it should. But everything's been taken over by the, Trump, or
right.
cost of living, and you make another good point. Indigenous issues, First Nations issues. I mean, when was the last time anybody even talked about that?
Exactly, and I think it should be all a national holiday. I know the Remembrance Day when I was a kid. I'll be 65 in the next 8 months. And if I remember correctly, it used to be a national holiday, and it should be, and we should be putting money in to support if it's an old vet or a new vet that's joining up today and 10 years down the road or ever what, right?
Oh, you mean Remembrance Day should be a statutory holiday?
A national holiday.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. Yeah, some people, the fear with that, Philip, just to kind of come at this from the other side, is that if you make Remembrance Day national holiday, it's just going to become another day for people to go shopping.
No, but they should be actually shut down like when I was a kid in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
There was nothing.
But lots of places that, but back in those days you had Sunday shopping laws and everything, right? Back in those days you had Sunday shopping laws and all this other stuff that were enforced. Right. You don't have a lot of that now. I mean, tomorrow is Good Friday. It's like the holiest day of the year for Christians is tomorrow. The malls are, they're going to be malls that are going to be open. They're going to be packed. Yeah,
but
I understand your sentiment, sir. I understand your sentiment, Philip. But the fear is, if you make it a statutory holiday, it's gonna kind of lose something, and people are not going to be remembering the way they are supposed to remember. That's the other side of it. Thank you, Philip. I know you disagree, and I appreciate your passion on the subject, sir. Chris in Halifax is up next. Thank you, Chris, for calling Talkback. What's on your mind?
Well, I agree with you on the making Remembrance Day a holiday. I agree with you 100% on that. You're right. You had a caller earlier, Marcel. I must say I agree with him as well. Not that I'm not agreeable with a guy, but generally I do agree with him.
That we've done it to ourselves. A lot of these problems are self-inflicted and predate Trump is what his point was, right?
Yeah, they are. We elect governments, and then a lot of the destruction that's caused is not the crisis, if you want to call it that we have to go through. It's the government's response to the crisis. That's the important thing to look at, I think. I mean, it goes right back to COVID. I mean, with all the close-ups of businesses and so on, there was roughly in 4 or 5 months, 3.5 million jobs approximately were wiped out, albeit temporarily. They came back after COVID, certainly. But they're looking at you and one of the callers were discussing a drinking game for this.
That's right. Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
Well, I have another suggestion to add to that. How about taking a drink every time Mark Carney says it's the biggest crisis of our lifetime?
Right.
Because he said that about 10 times last night.
He said that a lot last night, didn't he?
He sure did. I mean, Rob, I'm so sick and tired of the fear-mongering, the labeling and dividing of people for political gain that goes on. It's unbelievable. And it's part of the Liberal playbook. It goes right back to Senator Keith Davey, who was a Liberal campaign organizer in the 1980 election between Pierre Trudeau and Joe Clark. His exact words, Davey's exact words, screw the West, we'll get the rest.
We'll get the rest, yeah.
And
screw the West, we'll get the rest, yeah.
So, I mean, no wonder the poor people out west, especially Alberta and Saskatchewan, feel the way they do about Ottawa. They're justified in feeling that way. And I'm a Maritimer, obviously, and I kind of feel that we're left out of things too, and that's why I feel that Carney's not and the Liberals are not the right one. How many times do you hit your head against the wall before it hurts so much that you've got to stop? I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. The Liberals have had their time. It's more than time for a change, and Poilievre is the change we need, I think.
All right, Chris, thank you for your call. It's the Thursday Free for all here. I'm Rob Snow, 1-833-668-2577 to get in on the discussion today. This is News Radio. Mark in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
I'm good, Mark. Thank you. What do you want to talk about?
I wanted to bring up, there was a lady that called, I think it was yesterday, and she was talking about how a lot of people don't see, like, the real side of Pierre Poilievre. It's mostly slogans and headliners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I came across a video yesterday. It's called The Knowledge Project. I don't know if you heard of it. I think Dave that answered the phone there, he mentioned it, and I said, yes, that's why I'm calling. But people need to see this interview. It's like Pierre Poilievre, not as a politician for the most part. And it's like he touches on pretty much everything, and he explains a lot of the plans that, like, I didn't know about a lot of the plans he had for, like, inflation and all that. Yes, he wants to bring it down, but he doesn't really explain how he's going to do it. And in this video, he explains a lot of that, like, into detail, which was incredible. I thought, this has to get out there. That people don't know this, right?
Okay.
So that's all I wanted to say. It's
listen, what's it called? The Knowledge
Project, and it's a one-on-one
Knowledge Project. Okay. So I don't want to lose all my listeners, but go look that up. When this hour is done. But I will say, isn't that preferable? Something like that, Mark. And I mentioned this at the beginning of our program. Like, you think about the debate last night, they're going to do the same thing. These incompetent debate organizers. They do this big introduction, Donald Trump, da, 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 and then they go talk to the person on the street. How afraid are you of Donald Trump? And here's the auto worker whose job is at risk. And then they talk some more and they put something up on the screen. And then they say, okay, let's talk about Donald Trump. Pierre Poilievre, what would you do about Donald Trump? You have 35 seconds.
Yeah, not fair at all. Like
35 seconds.
That in 35 seconds.
Like 35 seconds. I mean, it's ridiculous. What will you do to make housing more affordable? You have 35 seconds.
Yeah,
right?
Or 20 seconds.
Come on.
Because Sting keeps cutting them off.
Right. I mean, it's crazy.
The other thing is, too, Rob, is he basically, he doesn't, how do you put it? He doesn't really talk about the breakdown on his plans, where on this thing he does. And it's amazing. My dad, we grew up in Ontario, like, for 12 years of my first 12 years of my life. And my dad, I remember, was always an NDPer, and I think he leaned liberal for a while. And then I've been, in the past 10 years, trying to show him the other side, because I'm a very staunch conservative. And I send him things from time to time. And I sent him this Knowledge Project last night, and he watched it, and he sent me a text this morning, said, great interview. And I said, I know, you get to see Pierre Poilievre as a human being more so than a politician. And he says, yes, but the best part is you get to see how smart he really is.
Okay.
And I thought that was just, wow, incredible.
All right.
Thank you for your time, Rob. Have a great
you're
day.
welcome, Mark. Thank you. You too. Robert up next on Talkback. Hello, Robert.
Oh, hi, Rob.
Hi there.
Hey, Rob, I won't go on a rant today, because I seem to do it every time I call you.
Rants are welcome, sir.
Even though I believe they deserve it, Rob.
That's okay. I feel that way all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of had forgotten about that when you brought up the celebrity thing. So I looked it up again, and I forgot Leonardo DiCaprio also went to Fort Mac, and then he was barking up a storm about it. Comes into Calgary, and we had a Chinook, and he said, "See, there."
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It's climate change. You can feel it. No, that's called the Chinook.
Yeah, I remember that. I totally remember when that happened. He was mocked just mercilessly about that, like how clueless he is, right?
Exactly. Weather change.
But then he thinks about, and it's just the hypocrisy of somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio, because he would leave from there on a private jet, and then I remember he went and rented a yacht and hung out in like the Caribbean somewhere on this mega yacht that is just like a diesel guzzling monstrosity, right? Just the hypocrisy of it all. These people who, say they want to save the planet, and yet are you consuming and emitting like just many multiples of what the average family would do in a year. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, I don't know who paid him off. It was some American that paid that off. I can't remember who it was, but
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, they all want to be seen as, I guess, do-gooders in the end, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
okay, Robert. But thank you for reminding me. I totally forgot about that when Leonardo DiCaprio said a Calgary Chinook was evidence of climate change. That was classic.
I just want to comment on your previous caller.
Sure.
He said the one thing about what Carney said so many times last night, we're in a crisis. Why? It's because we lost a decade. We haven't done anything for the last 10 years. And if we had made the investments in Canada and started to move Canada forward, we may not be in a crisis there. So it was your team, your players, your show. That's why we're in the crisis. And now he's trying to put, stress Canadians out that we're in a crisis. Well, maybe we should have done something.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Before you get too fired up, Robert, I'll end it there. We'll be right back. I'm Rob Snow. It's Talkback on a Thursday. It's a free-for-all today. Open line, open topic.
Snow.
Luke in Calgary up next on Talkback. Hello, Luke.
How are you?
Hello, Luke. I'm good, Luke.
So, I just wanted you were asking what would the Liberals have to do to kind of, for the final nail in the coffin?
Yeah, to go after Poilievre, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, just kind of threaten the old things, right? He's going to take away your health care. He's going to take away your dental. He's going to take away, right? He's going to take away everything, right?
Okay.
Isn't that's just kind of the Liberal playbook, isn't it? I think
Guns,
that's all that people
maybe.
need. I think people are struggling
Abortion.
so much that, well, I mean, I think abortion might work against them at this point.
Okay.
Like, really.
All right.
But yeah, I think it's that simple for the Liberals. I think they're going to win.
You do, eh? Okay.
Yeah, I think they are. I have a hard time believing that they're picking up traction out here in Alberta, but, that's not the crowd I run in anymore, so
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Okay. So, they'll come at him with, he's going to cut everything you care about, right? $10 a day childcare. I don't know who's getting $10 a day childcare, but they claim people are getting $10 a day childcare, pharmacare, dental care, hair care, nail care.
Well, yeah. Basically,
Right.
I think just people are just they can't afford to live anymore, and if you threaten that you're going to lose, a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there, they're not even going to consider voting for that guy.
Okay. All right. Very interesting, Luke. Thanks for calling. Good to hear from you. We're going to Matt is in Nepean near Ottawa. Nepean, a wonderful place to be in. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
What are you doing in Nepean? You door knocking for Mark Carney? No? Pounding in lawn signs? No?
No, not stealing. No, not touching any lawn signs. No.
Okay. Because that is the riding where Mark Carney is running. Of course, he doesn't live anywhere near there. He lives
that's right.
he lives in Rockcliffe, which is a little more exclusive than Nepean, of course. Rockcliffe.
Yes.
But anyway,
right.
What's going on in Nepean today?
Not much. Just same old. But I gotta say, as far as the debate last night, and I'm waiting for tonight to see a little. I'll be able to watch it at home. I think that a lot of what Carney's saying is coming out. There's keywords that are being said that people aren't seeing. Stuff about energy, stuff that's coming out that's starting to. He doesn't want to give away his portfolio, and he's saying things that keywords like Westburn, his history with the Bank of England, the Bank of Canada. There's a lot of little nuanced things that he's holding back, want to say, and I think tonight, if Pierre has any, this is the last stand for Pierre, because after tonight, I think everybody's pretty entrenched on who they're going to vote for with the Trump factor. But I think that tonight, is Pierre's last chance to really expose Carney, because Carney didn't look comfortable. He didn't.
Right. Okay.
He didn't look as comfortable as people might have thought. To me, anyways. I don't know what other people think, but he got a little uneasy. And just watching him in all these press conferences over the last 3 weeks, snapping at reporters about his portfolio, snapping about his business interests, and don't you kind of find that kind of Trumpian in a way, telling the media that, hey, I'm going to correct you because you're wrong?
Okay. Yeah. You can't believe everything you read. Right.
True.
Yeah. Remember he said that about the Globe and Mail. You can't believe everything you read. Check your sources the next time you write something like that.
Yeah. So
before you write something like that.
My feeling. As far as the ground game down here in the actual region where I live, I think there's going to be a lot of cancellation out. You're going to see there's young kids living with mom and dad, and you're going to see the public servant parents voting one way, and the kids who are still living in the basement going, that's not good enough for me anymore, mom and dad. I think I might change my vote.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
You do. Yeah. And I hear it on my own street.
You do. Interesting.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
From ground zero there, Mark Carney territory. It's interesting, David. On 338, they do this thing, toss up. You can look up individual ridings, toss up safe liberal, likely liberal, safe conservative, likely conservative. Like safe is what you want to be. Like the riding where I am in West Quebec is safe liberal.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But in Poilievre's riding of Carleton, it just says CPC likely, not safe, but likely.
The Liberal candidate out there, I don't know how they determine that. I guess they have some formula with the national polling data, but no, it's a good candidate out there. I've heard that he's been doing lots of door knocking. My parents
today
live in that riding, right? So
today, all the Liberal candidates in the Ottawa area, remember Poilievre is running in an Ottawa area riding, so is Carney. All the Liberal candidates that are running in Ottawa are in Poilievre's riding. They're blanketing Poilievre's riding and like they're doing like a mass door knocking on behalf of the Liberal candidate in Carleton. His name is Bruce Fanjoy, and he thinks he's going to be the giant killer on election night.
Yeah, we'll see. They did change
they try to do that. I mean, Justin Trudeau used to launch his campaign in Carleton.
Yeah.
Keep trying to take down Poilievre. They haven't managed to do it. I think he's won, 7 times or something like that. So who knows? I mean, if they lose Carleton, if the Conservatives lose Carleton, they can lose anywhere.
They could, yeah. It does still say they have a 95% shot at winning. So that's likely. I don't know how high it has to be for them to be considered safe, but it says odds of winning 95%. We're kind of splitting hairs now, but still, it does matter. I mean, 40% riding poll, 40% for the Liberal candidate, Bruce Fanjoy. That's not nothing.
No, that's not nothing. Okay. Talk to Ernie when we come back on Talkback, and Eric will go to Halifax and talk to Eric. As we start to wind things down, again, we're away tomorrow, so it's kind of your last chance to have at us. And you can, yell at us or sing our praises. It doesn't matter to us. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Okay, we're going to have to move along pretty quick here if we want to fit everybody in before the top of the hour. Ernie in Kitchener. Hello, Ernie.
Hey, Robbie. I'll try to be quick here. Enjoy your show first off, and then
thank you so much.
Just a couple comments, and then just see what you think after. But Rebel News yesterday, they asked some questions yesterday. I don't know if it was brought up, and I don't believe. I enjoy a lot of the stories they produce because a lot of media doesn't cover it, but obviously it is Rebel News, and I get that as well. Now, CBC basically referred to them as those people, right-wing extremists. Like Don Cherry got fired for saying those people. And so I'm wondering what the hypocrisy of that right there. And Jack Meeks, he wouldn't even respond to the question, his reaction the way he was,
Yeah.
And the other comment too is I respect the fact that Carney did answer the questions. But when he was asked the question about the two genders, like he replied, it was like just crazy blow up media when Pierre was asked that question and how he responded. Like the hypocrisy is just in.
Yeah, and Pierre was asked the exact same question by a television news anchor, right?
Right, and it was blown out of proportion, and then like you have the same response yesterday.
And it's like, why would the television news anchor ask that question?
Well, at that time, like, why?
Like it was a totally attempt at a gotcha moment, right?
100%.
100%.
And that's where like you don't see the outrage from the other side. But as far as like the way the CBC responded to them being allowed to ask questions, the way Jagmeet handled himself and handled those reporters, I was absolutely disgusted. I'm like, that's why CBC, your credibility is just going down the toilet. You know, that's why nobody watches you. You know, but I don't think anybody brought it up, and I just wanted to hear a bit of what your thoughts were on that. But I would
say, you know, look, Rebel, Juno, True North, maybe they're not everyone's cup of tea, but people have to recognize we're in a different media ecosystem now. It's a different media environment now. I've said this repeatedly. Like, there are so many choices right now. The media is more diverse and more independent than ever before. And that includes diversity of opinion. And as I said, you know, Rebel, Juno, whatever, maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, but they will ask questions, and there will be an audience out there, obviously, who want to hear the answers to these questions. Now, on the issue of, you know, the two genders, I mean, there was actually a news hook there because the Supreme Court in the UK ruled yesterday that the legal definition of woman does not include trans women. Okay, so there was, you know, a kind of a legitimate news hook there, but people have to kind of wrap their heads around this, and that includes people in my own industry. You know, we are long past the days of the daily newspaper and the 6 o'clock news, and you either get used to it or, you know, you're doomed.
Right.
That's my own opinion on it.
Yeah, I just, like I said, Rob, I appreciate a lot of the stories they produce that a lot of news outlets won't. Again, you take it with a grain of salt, but thank you for what you do.
All right, Ernie, thank you. That's why I try to listen to everybody and get everybody's opinion around here. Eric in Halifax up next. Hi, Eric.
Hey, how you doing today, Rob?
Good, Eric. Good to hear from you.
I'll come right to the point because I know you got a lot of calls. Your team is going to be all right, but they got to understand there's another team on the ice with them. But I think Toronto wins 6.
Okay.
As far as the Washington and Montreal, Washington in 5. And there's only 4 teams out of the 32 teams that have a legitimate shot at winning it all. And that's Winnipeg, Dallas, Colorado, and Washington. And the dark horse, and nobody's talking about this team, because they had the most goals during the regular season. Watch out for Tampa Bay. And I don't know what else if you want to react to that, but
well, I would say, you know, why wouldn't Edmonton be on that list? What would you bet against any team with Connor McDavid and Draisaitl? And they went to the finals last year.
They went to the finals last year. They could have won it if they had won that third game. But that's water under the bridge. I don't think that they have the momentum and the power to go all the way. You got to go against Winnipeg, and you got to go against Washington. I mean, and like I said, what's the name? Had 295 goals. They only gave up 215, and the next stingiest team was Winnipeg. They scored 280 goals, and they only gave up 191. So. I don't know how you can say throw out Edmonton in there. I mean, that was last year.
Well, yeah, it's just they have the best player in the world. You know what all the talk in Ottawa today is about the playoffs? Because the first time in the playoffs since 2017 for the Senators.
The debate last night because once they started fighting back and forth, well, you only built 6 houses. No, I built 200. No, you only built 6. And I said, all right, enough of that. I'm going to.
You know what the talk is in Ottawa today about the hockey, Eric? Listen to this. The talk in Ottawa is about how expensive the playoff tickets are. You know how much they want for the tickets in the nosebleeds?
Just imagine. I don't have
in the
money.
nosebleeds, like the top level of the 300s, like you're hugging the ceiling. $300 each.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know. When I used to go to games in Toronto in the nosebleed section, I was paying a good buck then. So I mean, it's outrageous the price they want. I'll watch it on TV. I get just as enough excitement watching it on television as if I was there.
Well, Eric, look, we got to run. Happy Easter, Eric.
Happy Easter to you, and we'll be talking to you when the dust settles.
Yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Back with more of your calls next on Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
With Pat up next on Talkback. Hi, Pat. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Rob. First-time caller.
Appreciate that, Pat.
That gentleman that called a couple times ago from Calgary and complaining about how expensive everything is.
Mm-hmm.
People have to realize that everything's expensive because of the Liberals.
Okay.
10 years of liberal government has made it that expensive.
Okay. Anything else, Pat?
The carbon
tax. Yeah.
The carbon tax coming off just before the election.
Yes.
We're getting cheaper gas, but he's just going to hide it in another area, and it's going to come back to the pumps. It hasn't been removed from your heating oil and your natural gas in your house. So everything is more expensive because of carbon tax.
Right. Okay. Well, they would say they did away with the consumer carbon tax. Now, he said yesterday he's going to rework the thing for big industrial emitters. Now, that whole system works on a carbon credit system, and it has sounded to me, in the way I read his campaign literature when he was running for the Liberal leadership, was his goal is to reduce the number of credits that companies can buy. Now, when you reduce the number of credits that companies can buy, those credits are going to become more expensive, which is going to hike up costs for companies. Does he really think companies are just going to eat those costs?
Well, after 25 years in the oil and gas industry, they're not going to eat it. It's just going to get transferred down.
Of course, it's going to. Of course, we're going to eat it.
Pass it on.
We're going to eat it if we can afford it. Exactly, Pat. Okay, Pat, I'm going to run because I want to fit in one more call, and that'll be it. And then it'll be a long Easter weekend for us. Peter up next. Hi, Peter.
Hey, Rob. How you doing today?
I'm good, Peter. Thank you. What's on your mind?
So I wanted to just mention quick two things. So I'm glad Poilievre never switched his campaign over to the guy against Trump, because if I remember correctly, I know Doug Ford won on that, but didn't he get crushed by Trump when he tried to impose tariffs? Trump came back and said, okay, 50%, and then Doug Ford backed down instantly. So I don't think that, was a good thing. And then, I think it would have opened up a big, campaign for the Liberals against Poilievre, a big slam campaign. And then the one other thing I'd like to mention, too, is I don't know if you've seen Rosemary Barton the other day down at the press conference bringing up the 51st state when nobody was talking about it. All of a sudden, she gets to ask a question, and she's got to bring up.
That wasn't Rosemary Barton. That was Katie Simpson.
Katie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's the deal there? Like, that can't wait until after the election. Like, you're trying to bring it back up to cause more problems and get this whole smear thing going again. I mean, I'm just like, oh my God, already.
Do you think that you think that was part of the motivation? Well, to get Trump and the 51st state back into the conversation after it had died down for a little bit? Do you think it was done on purpose?
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Absolutely,
okay. All right, fair enough.
I do, because it went quiet. And then just on the Ford thing, I mean, I understand them talking about trying to, because they have the big lead, but when you get crushed and then you're pushing that after you get crushed, and he's on CNN, you see him with Trudeau, you see him with Carney. I mean, I don't know. Is he actually a conservative? I don't know anymore. I'm just.
He says he is. He says he has a conservative lawn sign.
Yeah,
but
I know, right? But I mean, realistically, if you're saying run as this guy and your guy did and he won, that's great. But then he gets crushed. I don't know if that's the way to go. So I like the fact that he's
gotta go, Peter. Thank you. Thank you again. The English debate, 7 p.m. Eastern time, so 5 o'clock in Calgary, 8 o'clock. For our friends in Halifax. See what happens tonight. Maybe there'll be some fireworks. We will be back talking about Everything and all the latest breaking news on Monday. David Smith, I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.